Hey everybody, and welcome to this crazy Edu launch party. I have no idea what you're seeing or what you're hearing. So if anybody is watching this, if you could just give me a thumbs up in the chat that you can hear me. I have so many cool things to give away today, and I have had all of the tech issues. It was kind of like somebody said, if you're going to talk about educator mental health, we're going to make sure that you feel it right before you go on. And so I have like my phone is set up for my video, but only the back camera would work, and then the actual audio from the phone wouldn't work. So that's plugged into my computer. So I think there's a very good chance there's a huge lag on my video, and I probably look like some sort of old time karate movie. And then my screen is going to shut off at 30 minutes. And so this was only supposed to be 30 minutes anyway, but still, I've just had all of the things. So I apologize if things are a little crazy. And if it makes you feel any better, I'll do some karate moves and try talking, and we'll see if that actually works. So if I look like I'm looking off into the distance or something, it's because I'm looking at some other camera that's going on. So anyway, but enough about my problems here and my mental health issues. I hope everybody is doing well. And hey, everyone, thank you so much for being here. My bestie in the whole world is here, and I have so many amazing friends that I'm hoping are going to join in. So thank you so much. So we're not here to discuss my tech issues. We are actually here to discuss my new book, which I'm super excited about. And before we get going on and I show you what the book has going for it, I'll tell you a little bit about how it came about. And where this actually started was because I had released Reignite the Flames, which was my third book. And so I have The Fire Within, which I released several years ago. This is one about educator mental health and adversity. And then I went the innovation route, and I was like, oh, I'll write a book about innovation. So I did that. And then I came back to all of the things that I had been learning since I went and did The Fire Within. And I put those all in Reignite the Flames. And so how Educator's Matchbook came about was actually that I'd been speaking to a friend of mine who was working with some teachers that we had both worked with. And we'd all kind of said, they were saying that they had read my blogs and they were trying to re-engage, and they were feeling super stressed and feeling like they didn't know what to do, and they were trying to follow what I was saying, and it just wasn't working. And I felt really bad because I was like, well, there needs to be something that I can provide that is a more practical use of what I discussed in Reignite the Flames. And they just said that they were trying the things and it wasn't helping. And I do think that where I sort of went, not necessarily wrong in Reignite the Flames, but maybe one thing I did not make clear enough is that coming back from burnout and disengagement and working your way back takes a really long time. And so there is nothing about reading my blog posts or this book can't make you be engaged again. It doesn't. It can help you, give you some strategies, but it can't make you be engaged again. And I think that I wasn't clear that it does really take a long time. I also think that some people need visuals in order to help them sort of move past that. And so in an effort to help my friends that are feeling disengaged and who needed that help, I developed the Educator's Matchbook. And so the Educator's Matchbook really is about building resilience. It is about fighting burnout. It's about trying to re-engage, and it's practical steps to get you there. So it's day-to-day steps to get you there. So the beginning of the Educator's Matchbook is um, information on how to actually, it has the preface to Reignite the Flames. It goes through and it tells you how to use the book. And so what the intentions were with the pages when you get there, so you know what you're supposed to do with them. It has, let me get through there. There's a lot about how to use the book because there's a lot in the book. It talks a little bit about engagement and some of the things that are in Reignite the Flames, like the continuum of educator engagement. And so it gives some background information on the different pieces that you'll need in order to fill out the book. And so, like, if you don't exactly know what gratitude is, it goes through sort of an overview of gratitude so that you know. And then there are 14 weeks worth of pages and information that you can go through week by week, filling out in order to have a more consistent routine with practicing the things that you need in order to build the resilience. So there is a kind of weekly overview that you start and you fill out, and it can be filled out in any way that you want. If you want to, I know some people prefer to draw pictures. I know that like the some people are just more drawn to drawing, and there's enough space to do that. There's also enough space just to put little notes or put something really long and more detailed. And so there's you get ready for your week here. There's also an emotion tracker, which looks kind of silly, but it's very simple. And the emotion tracker is really about finding pieces of your week or your month or your year where you find triggers, and that you have to build in some more coping skills or ways to work through some of those triggers and be prepared for those in upcoming months. And so for example, if you know that if you start the book and you figure out that Christmas time is really a trigger for you, it could be because of your family history, it could be maybe financial reasons, whatever it is, and you start to notice that your emotion tracking kind of goes down and is down in these three little pieces down here, where it's kind of the angry, sad, and the meh. That's what I call that middle one, the meh. Then maybe you can start to prepare yourself around that time so that the following year you're not having those issues. And that's sort of Christmas is sort of a big ticket item, because there can be lots of things that trigger you during the week or the month. And so that would be one thing that you could do for that. There is also a Free Your Mind page, and the Free Your Mind page is basically a brain dump. It's meant for you to write down everything that's in your head, and this is a strategy for anxiety that can help reduce anxiety, because you have everything down on the page. You don't need to hold it in your head anymore. It creates some brain space for you, and then you're able to review and go back to that page whenever you need to. And so brain dumps can be done again if you like to draw. I'm not artsy at all, and so I would be writing words, but you can, there's plenty of room to draw if you would like, and so you can do that as well. There is always an optional journal. There's a journal and there's an optional prompt, and I included that because as someone who was re-engaging myself, journaling was really important to me. Now, I journaled in the way of I blogged. And so mine was a very professional journal. However, that gave me the space I needed and the reflection I needed in order to move back to the in order to move back to my personal stuff and deal with my personal stuff then, because I had just journaled about my professional stuff. And so whether you choose to journal about your personal stuff or your professional stuff, it doesn't really matter. There is always an optional journal prompt to get you thinking. And so you can, you can journal about that. Next in every week, there is one of three things. So we have, thank you so much, Rochelle. We have, in every week, there is either a gratitude, resilience, or mindfulness practice. And so one of the catalysts of this was a while back, I had a teacher friend who said, they are always telling us to practice mindfulness, and they are never telling us how we do that. And so beyond meditation or yoga, I have no idea what I'm doing. And so I really wanted to make sure that I was giving people actual strategies that they could use. And I tried to keep the strategies to being things that can be done very quickly. And so some of them, you very much can do it right in school if you have time at lunch or whatever it is. If you need some sort of mindfulness for the moment where you're really struggling and you're really needing some downtime or some mindfulness time, there's strategies in there for you to do that. There's also a gratitude journal for every week. And so it discusses what gratitude journals are at one point so that you know what they are and what you're actually supposed to be doing with gratitude journals, which is, practicing the gratitude is important as far as understanding that, so understanding why you practice gratitude and what you actually write down. But the most important part of gratitude is actually the piece where you feel it. And sometimes we're so quick and we're running through things and we're so busy that we forget. We're like, oh, we practice gratitude. I wrote three things down. But you forgot to stop and feel the emotion that came with it. And that is the most important part. And so it really goes through and it kind of explains that. Again, the first week gives you a mindfulness and gratitude practice, so you have something to continue. But there's a mindfulness practice, and then on the other side, there's also a mindfulness plan and reflection. And so there's just a very simple kind of what are you going to do? What are you planning out? And then it sort of goes through that piece of it. And you can write down your mindfulness plan and reflection. Before I continue, I want to give you guys the chance to win. And that's the best part of these things, right? So I want to make sure that you have a chance that I'm giving several things away. And so in the course of that, I put together a form. The form is at bit.ly/wineducatorsmatchbook. You should also be able to find it in the description of this show on either YouTube or on Facebook. It should have the link there. But if not, you can absolutely just type it in. It is bit.ly/wineducatorsmatchbook. And I wanted to give you guys a chance not only to win the book, but also I recently put together a course on mindfulness for educators. And I'm going to warn you that it is literally mindfulness for educators. And so it is not necessarily a course that says, if you take this course, you are going to know how to practice mindfulness in your classroom. More what it is if you take this course, you as an educator are going to build resilience and learn mindfulness in a very deep dive into mindfulness. And a side benefit of you being happy and healthy and mindful is that you can teach students. And so I want to give away 2 coupons for the course to get it for free. And so the contest will be for a few, I'll be giving a few books away. You could win the mindfulness course for free. And then also what you'll find on that form is you will find the, thank you, Melody, for putting that on there. You will find that there is a link to the very first few workbook pages for the mindfulness course. And so it goes, it's just workbook pages. It's not actually the course. And so it's just kind of an overview of some of the things that the very first module in the course has. And you can take a copy of that, and that's yours to keep. And then there's also some mindfulness activities on the bottom. But the way that the free pieces are laid out is very similar to the Educator's Matchbook. And so if you like the layout of what those pages look like, that's very similar to how Educator's Matchbook looks. So you are more than welcome to take that. And please fill out the form, and I will be contacting those people so that I can get their information and send you out your books or your coupons. So that's that. If you want more information on the course itself, you can actually go to divergentedu.thinkific.com. You'll find 2 things on that page. The first thing you'll find is the free Educator self-care course. And so you can find that there if you haven't enrolled for that already. And then the second thing that you can find is the Mindfulness for Educators course. And so that course is on there. It's 20% off right now. So it's $27.99 because it's up for pre-launch. I should be launching the first module tomorrow, although technically the whole thing's not supposed to be launched until the 16th. And so you'll be able to find more information on that. And the Educator Self-Care course is totally free. There's nothing that you have to buy for that ever. There has been some things every now and then that they've said, you need to sign up for Thinkific. You never do. That's not a thing. So if you have any issues, let me know. But the both of those courses are on there, and you can access those. So to check the comments here. Ooh, people are being awesome and putting those links in there. So if you have, if you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to put those links in there as well, so you guys have them. Okay. Oh, and Melody said I'm coming in so clearly. You guys have no idea how happy that makes me, because I'm usually all fuzzy. And Mel, you did not hear my tech issues I had at the beginning of it. Oh, we'll have to talk. I'll be boxing you. But yes, you can find those things at divergentedu.thinkific.com, and of course, the bit.ly/win educators matchbooks. You can find all of those things there. So I'm going to continue going through the matchbook here. So I just talked about the mindfulness. And for example, this page right here is about mindful coloring. And so I did try to put some things in this book that, again, even though it's for educators, because it's okay that you guys learn something that's for you and something that then is for students. That's okay. It can be focused on you. Mindful coloring is an amazing practice that you can use, but also is really helpful in the classroom. And I've seen, I've seen it used over and over again with students who are melting down, who are just at that breaking point, and where it really does calm them down if they've been taught how to do it correctly. And so it, some of the things, even though they're for educators, they can be used in the classroom as well. Then in each week, there is something called an educator activity. This one in particular for the first week is building a joy kit. And so it talks about what you can do to build a joy kit, what it's for, what you put in it. Talks about refilling it so you don't go in there one day and find no chocolate, because that would be sad. And so there's an educator focused activity as well for each week. And then finally, there is a weekly wrap up. And the weekly wrap up really asks you to focus on what is happening in the week, that like things that went well, things that, need to be worked on a little bit. Thank you so much, Rochelle. It also asks you to go back and to check your emotions with your emotion tracker. How did the week go? So the weekly wrap up is really about the reflection on the week. How did it, how overall did it go? And so within both the plan for the week and the reflection for the week, there is there is a place for reflecting on boundaries. And it does discuss boundaries in the beginning of the book a little bit and talks a little bit about them. And so one of the things, for example, one of the things that I've determined to really be impacting educators during this during the pandemic isn't that educators now are having issues with self-care and boundaries. It's that a lot of educators always had issues with self-care and boundaries. And so, they would work all the time because they were being asked to, and they had stuff to correct, and they had to get grades in and all of that kind of thing. And so they didn't set the boundaries before. And because they didn't set the boundaries before, they weren't getting in the self-care that they needed. Because they weren't getting in the self-care they needed, they weren't building the resilience they needed for a pandemic. So it really did start, we can say educators are really struggling right now, but educators have been struggling for a while. This isn't something that's new. And so it really is about trying to get you guys back to the basics so that you know where to start, so you have that foundation for adversity. So when difficult things happen. And then it continues on. So there's 14 weeks of that. And then there's always kind of a little page in between that gives you some kind of random information. This one happens to have about the lotus flower, because for every page there's a lotus flower in the corner. So it's hard to know which way to turn these things. But it is... there's little pieces of that kind of stuff in there. And then at the very end, there is a final reflection. So one of the things that I love the most out of this book is that for me, I was really able to put in some of the pieces that I needed to do in order to re-engage. And so this book is coming from a place of, I have researched all this stuff and I kind of know how it goes together. But it's also coming from a place of, I was there where I was sad and angry, and I had to work my way back. And looking back, what did I do in order to do that? And some of it was that I had to really reflect on some of the things that I was doing, and I had to have like crucial conversations with myself. And that is not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to have crucial conversations with yourself. There is a lot of conversations going on in my head, way too many voices. And so I had to have these crucial conversations. And so some of the things that I really had to reflect on were, how did I need to change in order to really be the person that I wanted to be, and in turn be the educator that I wanted to be, and what piece of that would make me happy, because I needed to figure out, in the end, the foundation of everything that I wanted to do was really about being happy. And I really think that that's okay to want that. That's all right. Like, we don't have to continuously live for other people. We can want to be happy ourselves. And so some of the educator activities in here are actually journals of having you go back and remember certain things. What was it like to step into your classroom the very first time? What did you smell? Because that's a really important, that's like a joyful experience. You got your first job, you worked so hard on working and getting through your degree, and there's something special about stepping into your first classroom that isn't the same for other professions. And so we get to step into the environment that we had been looking forward to for so long. And so asking you really, like, what do you remember about that? And living and kind of moving back to that moment and staying in that moment and feeling that joy. And because it's probably not something that you think about as much anymore. And so it does ask questions like that. Like, for example, this educator activity is actually your purpose in education. So some of the activities ask you, it starts a little bit small. It starts with, let's talk about what your core beliefs are. How do you know that those are your core beliefs? How do you live your core beliefs every day? And then it moves into, what is your purpose in education? What are you doing here? Obviously you're here to serve students, but can you get more specific than that? Because I serve students, but I serve students by means of serving educators, because I've always believed that when we serve educators, we are best serving students. And so, yes, my purpose might be, kind of like a secondary purpose is serving students, but it's in the way of serving educators. And so it really talks about, like, what truly is your purpose? Why are you here? What are you doing? And it's making you define that, because when you define that, that gives you that tether to hold on to education. And so that is the Educator's Matchbook, my friends. Thank you so much. I want to again give you a few more things, because I'm hoping my screen doesn't time out. I'm going to touch it and I don't know what's going to happen. Okay, nothing happened. So we're good. We're good for another half an hour, but I'm gonna wrap it up here. So couple things again that you might need. I want to make sure that you have this. So let me get the banners. We have the form to win. So the form to win is bit.ly/win educators matchbook. And on there, again, you will find a couple things. You have a free piece of the mindfulness course. The mindfulness course is going to end up being roughly 7 to 8 hours of content plus eight snippets of workbook that, and the one that you'll download is one of them. So there's 8 of those. And then there's also, besides the video content, there's also mindfulness activities for every single one. And then there will be a piece of the last one that directly discusses mindfulness in the classroom. And so there will be a little bit of that. But again, that course is really geared at in mindfulness. I just recorded the initial video, and I said, mindfulness is just different than every other thing we teach. It's, in order to be able to teach mindfulness, you must be able to know how to be mindful, because there is no other way of describing the feeling of being in the moment consistently if you don't know how to do that. And so if you gave me an algebra problem, for example, or like a really simple algebra problem, because if you know my math skills, you would understand why it wouldn't be able to be a difficult one. But in an algebra problem, I would be able to say, I would be able to sit next to a student and say, okay, I know the general idea of this algebra problem, so let's work on it together. But with mindfulness, it's a feeling. It is a feeling of being centered. of knowing that you're right here and you're not ruminating about the past, and you're putting away your goals for the future for a minute, and you're just staying here. Because if you think about any joyful moment, take a moment to think about a joyful moment. If you really think about what you were thinking at that moment, it probably was not about the past, and it probably was not about the future. You were probably in that moment. If I'm holding a baby, for example, I'm looking at that baby and I'm thinking about how beautiful it is and how wonderful and perfect it is. And you know, all of those types of things. I'm laughing at its noises, and I'm, you know, smelling its diaper or whatever. You know, I've got to do that stuff with babies. But if I'm doing that, I'm not thinking about the past or the future. That's being present. And that's what mindfulness is about. And so in order to really be able to teach mindfulness, you have to know how to practice it. And so that course is about teachers learning mindfulness, what they need to do for it's like a deep dive into mindfulness. And then also there are some snippets there to help you as an educator specifically. And then also there are some pieces here and there that will help you with mindfulness in the classroom. And so that's really what that is about. So you will find that mindfulness workbook stuff. I think there's 7 pages. You will find just your name and stuff to fill out for getting coupons for a free course, or your chance at coupons for a free course, your chance at free books, and I will choose those in the next couple of days. You can find the course there. It's at divergentedu.thinkific.com. And then the last thing that I hadn't mentioned yet is I'm actually doing a free webinar for educators on mental health and burnout. It's absolutely free. There's nothing you have to buy, but you do have to register. There is a limited amount of seats just because Zoom. And so the seats are going quickly, which is amazing, and I'm excited to see everybody. But I will also be giving more course stuff and books away there. So it's a second chance to win some more things as well. So my time is up by 2 minutes. And you guys, thank you so much for joining me. It was so nice to see so many of my friends in here, and I really, really appreciate you so much. And you know, if you have any questions at all, please reach out. Otherwise, have yourself an amazing Sunday night.